Hello, welcome to Pulling the Music Apart. I'm Dave, and I'm joined by Norlia and Russell and our good friend Savis. As our name suggests, we're here to explore and analyse music. It's what we do. On this podcast, we'll be discussing punk rock, fringe rock, pub rock, that kind of stuff. I guess the fringy kind of stuff, really, and a bit of Aussie stuff and that kind of thing, aren't we? So, Savis, what do you got for us?
Well, I think we need to start with what does the word punk mean? And it kind of means rebelling against the norm of what was happening musically at the time. So music in the 70s was becoming, I guess, sophisticated, and it was for musicians that actually knew their instruments and were musical. And young kids in their garages were like, well, that's not really representing who we want to be and what we feel. And I think that they came out and were a little bit rambunctious and undisciplined and not really having a great knowledge of music.
Sticking it to the man
and creating a sound that represented them. And I think that became punk. And the lyrics weren't really about love or romance or happiness. They were more about despair and how people felt at the time and hardships and so forth. So I think we need to start there. And is it fair to say that punk came from the UK?
I'd say it did.
I think so.
But then again, it was big in New York as well, wasn't it?
Right.
The CBGB club.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. And it was the stuff that did come from the UK was a little bit of a reaction to Thatcherism and what was happening with unemployment and so forth. And it resonated over in Australia with bands like the Saints, Radio Birdman, the early versions of the Angels, and so forth.
I think that it came at the same time from two different places. So I think it was London and New York around the early 70s, like 1974.
You're referring to Blondie, Deborah Harry?
Absolutely,
early stuff.
But then at the same time, you had the Sex Pistols happening. And when I think of Sex Pistols and I think of punk at that particular time, it represented anarchy and it represented rebellion and it was like against the Queen. And it was, we shouldn't be told what to do type of vibe. You can't control us. We're young and we're going to show you what we think of you. And that ties in really well with the actual image of it, because then you started to see crazy hairdos, mohawks, studs in people's noses, studs on people's jackets. It was like a real FU to authority.
Didn't Sex Pistols have a song called God Save the Queen?
She ain't no human being.
And who did they...
Fascist regime.
The fascist regime. Wow.
Do you remember who they included in the film clip?
Ronnie Biggs.
The great train robber.
Yeah.
Right.
Good get, isn't it?
Right. And they had the song Anarchy in the UK.
Anarchy.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah. So that was a bit of a symbol of punkism, wasn't it? The symbol of the A with the line and the circle around it.
Yeah.
Do you think it was sometimes used, because when punk went for long enough, I guess it was a good, 10-year period. It was sometimes used as a bit of a tool against the disco demon.
Absolutely, yeah. Because in New York, there was the New York Dolls.
I love them. Wow. Can you tell me a bit more about them?
Well, what's your favourite song?
I don't know any, but I think that from what I know about the New York Dolls is they were a little bit of a band that dressed up as women, a bit of a transvestite band. They looked great and they had a particular sound, but they weren't very musical. And that's why they didn't really last very long.
They're in the same era of Psychedelic Furs. Remember them?
Oh, I do.
Oh, that was
New wave punk?
Yeah.
New wave. I remember that.
New York Dolls is like early 70s, like 71, 72. They were a big influence on Kiss. So Kiss thought, well, if these guys can dress up as women, we can too. But they didn't look as good as women Kiss because they were kind of 6 foot tall and built more like football players.
Yeah. They didn't really look feminine at all.
Exactly.
But I, just as I sort of look at a picture of them, I see Motley Crue's influence.
Exactly.
But Motley Crue were a little bit pretty apart from
Mick Mars.
I don't want to say it because people get offended.
But what's amazing is not only punk was a political movement, it was a sound, it was a fashion, it was multifaceted.
It was a statement.
Right.
It was a statement, and it was scary. It was actually scary for a lot of people who didn't understand youth and didn't want to accept changes happening and rebellions happening. Because I think that the whole lifestyle, there was a big shift between the lifestyle in the 60s and 70s, wasn't there?
Yeah.
And you guys would know about that a little bit more than Savis and I.
And some of these artists took their art a little seriously too, didn't they? Literally. I mean, punk, I should say Sid Vicious and Johnny Rotten. Didn't one of them murder his girlfriend.
That's correct. Sid
Yeah.
Vicious shot Nancy. Well, it's
Yeah.
rumoured anyway.
Yeah.
Rumoured. Have you seen the movie Sid and Nancy?
They have a very volatile relationship.
Very volatile.
I haven't
yeah.
seen it, but I think I know how it
Yeah.
ended.
Yeah. Well, he ended up killing himself.
Yes.
But he was investigated for a murder charge, and there is rumours that she was killed by a drug dealer that they owed debt to. So
do you think the murder-suicide was just a publicity stunt to sell records?
well, you're not there to collect the money, so I don't
No.
think so.
If it wasn't a very smart plan.
Right.
But a lot of the punk bands certainly evolved into, what you'd call more mainstream music.
True.
You look at Australian band Saints. Okay, they burst onto the scene. The song had reasonable success, gained significant radio airplay. Stranded. What a punk song that was. And then look what they turned into by the late 80s. The Music Goes Round My Head. It was
I do like that song,
It's
though.
a great song, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Far removed from punk. By then.
Right. I guess punk became a parody of itself, where like the song "The Music Goes Around My Head," it was an Australian pop rock song with punk elements. Moving on, from that, new wave, which was procession of punk music.
I don't think you can forget Iggy Pop either.
Right.
And then he himself is considered the godfather of punk.
Yeah.
And also he made a segue for himself into pop as well. If you remember, he did that song called Candy with the singer from the B-52s.
Love that
Yes.
song.
And that's really poppy, isn't it?
But he still was punk, his voice was, so what is a punk voice? It's kind of half spoken. It's not
Nasally.
nasally.
And-
It's,
Yeah, I feel that too. And I think that's his version of storytelling with that kind of dark voice. And it's kind of got this, it's not really a vibrato. It's more of a following the melody with his voice. And yeah, I don't know. I just think he was able to make really that changeover into pop. And when I think about his voice, like I think Nick Cave, like that dark voice.
Actually thinking about some of the early, as you mentioned, David, the Angels, Mr. Damage has that punk sound where I think he goes from that, a normal rock voice into that sort of brand new set of clothes for a very special day. He puts on that nasally stuff, a la the Sex Pistols, with a great rock backbeat. Thanks to Vanda and Young.
I like it when, now, if we're doing vocal impersonations, I like it when Iggy Pop goes, "Life is crazy, candy baby."
Can you do the next part? Whoa.
Whoa.
Okay.
I can't let you go.
Why can you do that better than me?
Raspy voice today.
Do you guys know the band Motorhead?
Motorhead.
Yeah, with Lemmy.
Yeah, with Lemmy, yeah.
Yeah, with Lemmy Kilmister. Well, when they began in the late 70s, they sounded very punk because of Lemmy's voice. And a lot of the punks would show up to their shows and think they were a punk band, but they were, dudes in leather with long hair. So they were a bit of a crossover band that attracted, the heavy metal fans and the punk audience as well. Because, early Motorhead definitely has punk elements to it.
Rage Against the Machine. They kept that vibe going.
Yeah.
And I think in a lot of punk music, you got a lot of that kind of staccato style music, and that,
They
creates.
didn't elongate the notes quite so much.
Yeah.
Did
And, if you think about the staccato, it helps with the body movements.
Yeah.
Well, there is a bit of the slam dance is a punk dance, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're meant to dance to punk music, I guess. You don't see people at punk shows sitting down clapping with popcorn or anything. They're up there
they? Headbanging.
slam dancing,
Yeah. I think,
crowd diving.
yeah. And that's what you see now. We
Stage
see-
diving, sorry.
Yeah, stage diving
Yeah.
or just being carried.
Crowd
across-
surfing.
What do they call
That's
it?
crowd
I
surfing.
saw a film clip the other day. He was crowd swimming, and he was doing that.
With freestyle.
Yeah,
Wonder if you can do a backstroke.
but hang on, there was a guy from the Darkness, the lead singer from the Darkness,
Something Hawkins. I'm not
Michael Hawkins, Stephen Hawkins. No,
I
not
don't know.
Stephen Hawkins.
That's the robot man.
We should do that as a warm-up exersure before we get on.
What's that?
Crowd surfing.
We
But,
could definitely pool surfing.
Yeah. But I think that punk rock has had a bit of a resurgence because I would say that it has got a lot to do with where we're at right now in the world.
Right.
Because we have been somewhat dictated to in certain states. There are people that still resent that, and they resent the impact that it had on their life. And I think sometimes people can show that through that creativity. And sometimes people need that crazy punk band up there on stage so they can let out all their feelings, like that Emil and Sniffers band.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you about. Would you consider them punk, Amel and the Sniffers?
Yeah.
Because why? How would you label their sound as punk?
Because she's putting that vibe out there, but she's not doing it in a negative way. She's just saying what she thinks and calling people out about their behaviour. And also, I think she's saying, I don't really care what anyone thinks.
Just coming back to that rebel component that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually do like that song. What's the song called? What's the name in the Sniffers?
It's a bit of the one with all the profanities in it.
Yeah. I just thought it was a song just mentioning body parts for the sake of mentioning body parts. But I do like the song, though.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. I think it is called You Should Not Be, I think. But she just the way that she's dressed as well. She wears pretty much almost like a bikini with some hot pants, and she looks amazing, but she doesn't care what anyone thinks. And it's, but it's not done in a nasty way. She's trying to do this in her own fun way, and it's working because I've seen quite a bit of footage of their gigs and people love it.
I've got a question for you, Norley. Would you consider a band like Green Day to be punk, where they have punk hairstyles and they kind of portray themselves as a punk band, or they're not punk because they're so commercial and poppy?
Yeah, I just think that they had a punk-looking image, but I don't consider them to be a punk band.
Right.
Because, let's face it, punk music doesn't get played on Triple M, and, it's not...
On your mainstream station.
Not in mainstream station.
In the 90s, you were around, obviously, and you were going out to pubs and so forth. Did you see any of the big bands, punk bands of the 90s, what we considered punk in Melbourne, like bands like the Cosmic Psychos or the Hard-Ons?
The Ramones.
The Ramones weren't in Australia, but Australian bands. Oh, did they come and tour?
I thought they did. The Ramones came here.
They won't again.
No.
Nursery Crimes, bands like that. Did you ever get to see them?
No. I went and saw a band called L7.
Would you consider them punk?
No, not really.
Okay, right.
They're probably more grunge.
Right.
But they were they had that I don't care attitude as well. Like a little bit like Courtney Love, all that kind of stuff. Because
Pork Dukes, remember? From late 70s. And they were just using dirty words.
Yeah.
Or with that nasally.
You could have like a punk image, I think.
Right.
With a rock band. So I don't know, Savas, if you remember Skunk and Nancy.
Of course I do.
Yeah.
And did you go and see them?
No, did you?
Yes.
You did?
It was amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. I was deaf for a while afterwards, but she was so captivating on that stage. And of course, she was bald and she was tall and, she just belted every single song out. And I thought she was amazing.
So what differentiates punk from alternative?
I just think it's the lyrical content.
And attitude.
And like that staccato stuff we were talking about before and just it's just an attitude too. It's just this attitude that comes through. But anyone can dress up as a certain image. That's just a costume.
But raging against the machine.
Yeah. I think people like choosing images that make them think, if you looked at Avril Lavigne, how many years ago, 25 years ago or something, you look at her and she looks like she's this little punk rock girl. But if you listen to a lot of the songs that she's written, a lot of them are love songs. It's just
like Skater Boy.
Yeah. I think that's where sometimes people get confused with hard rock, punk. But if you confuse the two together, I think you get a wider audience. And I think that's what's happened, with that Emil and the Sniffers band.
Well, remember the TV show Punky Brewster?
Yeah.
What was Punky's real name? It wasn't Punky, was it?
No.
No.
I don't think
Why
so.
was she called Punky? Because she was a punk kid.
Because she dressed... There you go. Punky Bruce. Her name was Soleil Moonfry.
But in the show, I mean, her real name wasn't Punky in the show, was it? Or her name is Soleil Moonfry. Soleil in Spanish means the sun.
Yeah.
So sun, moon.
And the moon means the moon.
And she's been fried.
I think parents
from the sun or the moon.
Right.
The parents might have been fried.
Side up. Yeah.
But I sort of, when I think of Punky Brewster, I don't think of Sid Vicious. I don't see the relationship there.
And what do you guys think about the remaining members of the Sex Pistols have rebanded and are touring again?
Is that right?
Without Johnny Rotten.
Yeah.
So...
Well, what's the point?
Exactly.
Look, they're a versatile band. They covered a song that you wouldn't identify with punk at all back in about it's 1970.
Are we thinking of Frank Sinatra?
Frank Sinatra song, I Did It My Way.
It's fantastic.
It is amazing. I think they changed a few lyrics too.
Yeah.
You know how I was talking before about punk attitudes and how youth were rebelling. I've just done a little bit of research on that too. It's actually having a bit of resurgence because there is a lot of angst coming from young people, and it's coming also from the social platforms.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I would hate to be that young going through what they're going through with social media. Like, I think they're going through something. I think they never get to switch off, you know, and they're being told through a social media platform what they should look like, how they should wear their hair. And all of this kind of thing. And it's fed to them all the time. So that's causing a lot of anxiety for a lot of youth.
Well, guys, what is the outro lyric to Anarchy in the UK? No future.
Oh, yeah.
No future, no future for me. I guess when you're young today, maybe they feel that way. What do you think, Nolia?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think David Bowie said it, you know, just nobody knows just how far this technology is going to go. And it's going to be both wonderful and both terrifying.
So the punk message is just as relevant today to the youth of today.
Yeah.
In whatever form we listen to punk.
Right.
Absolutely. Where I think it was more rigid back in the day, like, you know, education and, you know, when kids went to school back then, it was very strict, very rigid. People got knocked on the knuckles with a strap, and probably worse in other schools. And, you know, that's where people were going, you know what, stuff this.
So maybe the punk ideology has been around for a really long time. And maybe in the 70s, a soundtrack was put to it, a fashion was put to it, and it was marketed and sent all around the world, and people could relate to it now as what happened in the UK in the late 70s. But I guess that punk ideology of being rebellious has probably always been there, probably since ancient times.
So, yeah, little has changed compared to what you said, Nolia, before about social media platforms, possibly sending confusing messages to young people. Probably no different to a girl reading Dolly magazine back in the day. Same kind of thing.
Yeah, I wasn't even allowed to read Dolly.
Right.
Mum found a Mode magazine under my bed, and she grabbed it and she goes, "Get it out of this house. I don't want anyone telling you what you should look like. These girls are not your role models." And I was like, oh, okay. It was really, she knew.
Then where did she take you afterwards? To the food court at Shopping Town? And say, these girls are now your role models.
Yeah, so I guess I think she was onto it, because everyone looks like a clone. And I'm talking about what they are literally being told. Every day you've got to have these big fat sausage lips. You've got to have these big false, eyelashes. And somebody said Jim Henson predicted what girls would look like in the 2020s, and it's a picture of one of the Muppets.
Yeah,
and she's got the big, and she's got the long eyelashes and the big lips.
Miss Piggy.
It wasn't Miss Piggy.
Do you?
I love Miss Piggy. She was authentic.
Getting back to the music itself, so would you agree that punk music was always very serious and angry, generally? I was just having a bit of a browse here. So remember Madness?
Yes.
Baggy trousers.
Yes.
That was punk rock.
Yes. And that reminds me, when I was about in year 10, that was when girls' fashion was, you had to have this fringe that went across, and you had to wear cargo pants, bomber jackets, red cherry Doc Martens.
I do like those.
Do you remember that look? And you had maroon lipstick and really pale face. And I remember going to a gig, and we were doing this dance. The dance you would dance was called skanking.
Right.
And it had that staccato music in it, and you would have to hop up on one leg and then fall, and then hop up on another leg and then fall. So you go left, right. And that was the style of the dance. And the guys had the punk hairdo, and they used to wear the green bomber jackets.
I wasn't part of that scene, so I was more into the heavy metal scene. But
I was into that as well, but I tried out every scene.
Right.
And they had the flannelettes, remember? Long flannelette shirts, Doc Martens. Remember all of that? That was a thing at the time.
I feel that you're talking about, you call that style of that fashion style where people paint their faces white. The Cure were kind of the godfathers of it.
Yeah.
What do you call that style of music?
I think didn't that fall into the new wave a little bit?
New wave, new romantic.
New romantic, I think
later,
it was.
No, but, it was bands like the Sisters of Mercy, Gothic.
Gothic.
Yeah.
Were you guys goths? Is that what you're talking about?
No. No, the girls were called mods.
Okay, a mod. All right.
Yeah, you were a mod.
Well, even
And you had to have your hair a certain way.
Cyndi Lauper used to
Right.
dress that way. That
So-
was rebellious. The
so-
music was pop.
So it sounds like punk evolved into so many subgenres.
Yes.
Yep.
Like goth, alternative, new romantic,
Yep.
and new wave. So what an important style of music that was created.
Well, hugely influential in fashion, in attitude, a number of things. Lyrical content as well, political lyrical content as well.
Okay. Well, I think we hit on a great topic.
The Clash.
Yep.
There's another one.
Yeah.
They started out as a punk band,
Right.
slowly morphed into just doing pop music, really. But,
Yeah.
London Calling, I'd call that punk.
Right.
Yep,
Yeah.
I agree.
Rock the Casbah, not so much.
Yeah, it's a great song, though.
I love it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's very relevant to what's happening now in the Middle East in a way.
Crikey, I reckon, yeah.
The jet fighters and everything.
Yeah.
Wow.
Punk, we've just acknowledged that punk has influenced many different genres, which is going to make total sense to you. Punk influenced grunge. Grunge took on a life of its own and changed rock music forever.
Right.
So what is the first grunge band, Russell, that comes into your head from the 90s?
Look, it's an obvious one. I wasn't heavily into Nirvana, but it's probably the first name on my lips.
Now think about the image that they had as well. It definitely wasn't clean cut like the Beach Boys or anything like that.
No.
It had that, I don't care if my hair doesn't look brush look.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wonder, Norley, if it'll keep evolving. Because to me, Amyl and the Sniffers aren't musically revolutionary in any way. They're kind of just continuing on for what the Hard-Ons, the Cosmic Psychos and bands like that did. Just an Australian accent, just screaming out silly words. I mean, I don't really find them really that different. The only thing that pushes them in the forefront is the lead singer Amyl, the blonde woman that runs around with attitude and so forth.
Well, people globally love them. So whatever they've managed to, luck meets opportunity meets, the right timing. They're it at the moment, and they're having fun with it. But yeah, I don't think it's going to trigger off a whole bunch of new punk bands. I don't think it's going to be revolutionary because it's actually happening. There's lots of those bands around in Melbourne, particularly.
Oh, there are. I heard one the other day. They're called In the Esky, and they're a Melbourne punk band. I was at a friend of mine who's a producer, and he goes, I mixed this band about a year ago, and he played it to me. Thought it was really cool. So, but it wasn't musically groundbreaking. It had that Australian punk stamp on it that they kind of just continued doing.
But around Nirvana too, around that time we had Faith No More. And if you ever went to a Faith No More concert, you know what Mike Patton was like.
Yeah, he was crazy.
He would do crazy things and he would climb I remember seeing him climbing a wall once, like a fence.
Not Pearl Jam? You thinking? Faith No More?
No, I saw Mike Patton doing that. It was at Festival Hall. There was like a fence on the stage or something and he climbed up it. It was part of that crazy stage behavior. I think punk allowed that. You had more movement on the stage and also distortion in your amplifier.
If you'd ever seen the Angels perform live, Doc Neeson, the front man, lead singer, he was that, wasn't it? He would jump all over the stage. And this is a man that's 6'5" or 6'6", big bloke, jumping, wrestling microphones, climbing up wiring looms, that type of stuff.
I was front row at that concert and I was with the girls from our school, Kingswood College.
At which band?
The Angels.
Yeah.
It was actually a Jimmy Barnes concert as well. And, but we were right up the front with the Angels.
They've got one of their songs has a bit of a sing-along part to it.
Oh, yeah. Everyone knows that one. But they had the crowd in the palm of their hand. And we ended up, when you go to some of these concerts like Big Day Out and things like that, people just squashed right together. And unfortunately, at this particular event, we were all squashed together and people were moving like this. So we were actually going from left to right. It was actually really scary. And I turned around to look for my friend Tracy and she was nowhere to be seen. And then I'm like looking everywhere for her. She's on the ground and there's like about 5 or 6 people on top of her. And I'm like pulling arms back and legs back trying to get to the bottom of her.
God, that's rock and roll.
How rock and roll is that? I go, remember that time you passed out at the Angels concert?
Out.
Yeah, just about. Because it was claustrophobic. And I remember after that event, I was always scared to go right up near the stage at Big Day Out because I was terrified. So I'd always stand back a little bit after that. And then I remember going to see, I'd just seen Offspring play. And then after that, Courtney Love came on. And I remember people coming back from the mosh pit with like one lens in their glasses or sunglasses, and I'd be like, "Yep, that's right. Don't go up the front, Nolia. That could be you. You know, you might lose something or break something." It was terrifying. But I mean, I'm sure that still happens at concerts.
No,
The mosh
they need to
pit.
bring it back.
I'm sure there's mosh pits that happen.
Probably.
But then again, now they've got security, and I think there's like about 5 meters between the artist and it's a bit hard to go nuts, isn't it? Bit hard for them to crowd surf too.
We can't stage dive anymore.
No, they'll stage dive right onto the floor. But yeah, what a time to be alive, to be able to go to concerts like that.
What is just a statement of what is your definition of what punk music is? I'm going to start. You don't need very much musical ability to join a punk band, David.
So long as you have explicit lyrics and you're sticking it to the man, that's punk.
Okay. Am I ever going to see your face again? No way. Get fucked. Fuck off.
For me, punk, I agree with you, Savas. I don't think of the most talented musicians in the world, but I think about people who are trying to show their resilience and show that they're an individual. Punk stands for individuality and not conforming to what the world tells them to be.
Yeah, sort of like S Club 7 or something.
I think this is the only episode that people are going to think I'm a snob.
Why?
Well, I've kind of, for what I've said anyway.
Talking about naughty lyrics.
Yeah, I think sometimes this is the other thing. You don't really know, do you, how talented or how knowledgeable a musician is. How they choose to present that to the rest of the world is totally up to them. There are geniuses out there that come across as being quite simple. Like even when we looked at the Vanda and Young videos earlier, and you said it yourself, you go, they don't look like they've got a brain between them. They wrote hits that will live forever. That was their thing. Like they wanted to look silly. And I think what's beautiful about that is they take the ego out of it all. Like it's telling the world, I don't care what you think. I'm actually okay with myself and what I think. And if you aren't, that's okay too. But if you want to listen to me, this is what I got to say. That's punk to me.
True. Great way.
If that's all we have for this episode, if you have any questions or would like to leave a comment, feel free to reach out to us on Instagram at Pulling the Music Apart. Our next episode is almost ready, so stay tuned for its release. Until then, keep listening to the music, and thanks for tuning in.